Hello, guys. Welcome to the Rich Seller Podcast. Today, we bring on two very special guests with us, Brent and Jack. And today's topic is going to be one of the most exciting topic in Amazon sellers history. We are going to talk about Amazon Marketing Cloud. So before we begin, let's do a quick introduction. So, Brent, why don't we start with you? A quick introduction about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Sure. My name's Brent. I'm the founder of a company called AMC Pathfinder. We're a Amazon advertising services agency. We do a lot of creative work too, and now more recently some external traffic. And we've been dipping our toes into the refreshing cold waters of Amazon Marketing Cloud. I would say the past just 6 or 7 months. It's pretty new, but very interesting.
Cool. I'll go next.
That sounds good. Jack, you're
Hi,
next.
Jack. I'm on the product team at PackView. For those of you not familiar, PackView is an e-commerce acceleration SaaS platform touching all of the major retailers and retail media networks. I work on a lot of PackView's advertising tools, but my special projects have included the first to market Amazon DSP integration for SaaS platforms, as well as an Amazon Marketing Cloud integration. So those are my special areas of expertise. I'm excited to chat with you all about that today.
That's great. Thank you guys for joining us today. So let's talk about the exciting topic today, Amazon Marketing Cloud. Now, we have been hearing a lot about DSP. It's been with us for long, but we always have a complaint that we are always getting the last integration point, the last connect. We're not able to see from where the clicks are coming and what is the last click. And Amazon is only giving us the last click. But today we have a very special guest with us that is going to share more in detail about Amazon Marketing Cloud. So, Jack, why don't you give us a little bit brief about what exactly is Amazon Marketing Cloud?
Sure. So Amazon Marketing Cloud is Amazon's data clean room. A data clean room is a relatively complicated topic, and there are a couple ways to describe it. The one I use for sort of non-technical folks is think of a clean room as a DJ table where you walk in and you put different records on. If you imagine those records are different data sets, and the DJ's job is to sort of blend the pieces together to create a more useful output of those different records that they're placing and spinning on the turntable. That's like the simplest way to think about a data clean room. In a more technical sense, a data clean room is a privacy-safe, pseudo-anonymous environment in which multiple parties can share parts, but not all, of their data with a different group of people. So in this example, you and Amazon are saying, we have some data we'd like to share. Maybe that's how many people how many of your consumers are in the state of New York. But that's something you can query, but not what's Brent's address. Right? So it's it's a way to allow advertisers really helpful information without revealing that underlying PII or that personal identifying information.
Okay, that's very technical. Okay, that's good. So Brent, you are handling a lot of clients, and I'm sure we have been connecting their AMC as well. So how do you explain your clients who are at ground zero with AMC? How do you explain that? What is AMC? How they are going to get benefit from it?
Yeah, I think Jack put it pretty well. The only thing I might build on that is like when we're trying to build a use case for what we're doing with AMC, because as an agency, we're not just going to pay for a software or a tool without a pretty clear idea of how we're going to use it in the future, how it's going to grow, what our trajectory is going to be like. If we're going to spend time and money investing in something and energy, learning how to use it, we need to have a clear idea of what it's going to be for. So I would say the first use case in the way that we looked at AMC was for who, in terms of our clients, are we spending a lot of money with DSP? And then how can AMC as a tool help us understand the impact of that at a wider scale? That was the first lens I think we looked at it through. And then, as Jack said, it's not really that you can go in there and look at where is Susie buying yoga pants from. It's more like people like this person, like psychographic, demographic information, and then repeat purchases. Like, is this individual, not knowing their name and their address, are they making repeat purchases? And if so, if I look at the giant pool of customers we've had over the past 6 months, because of course, if you scale it out you look at wider time frames, you're able to draw better conclusions. Are people like Susie, this customer that I have, what kind of other behaviors do they exhibit? So that's how I try to, I guess, frame it for clients. And it really only makes sense, in my opinion, if you're spending a significant amount of money on DSP on a monthly basis. So we have it for only a handful of clients, quite honestly, but there's so much to dig into that small set of clients keeps us busy enough right now with it.
Okay, got it. So what I get it is, let's assume we have an ad going on for a product in, let's assume, an OTT platform, and customer view it, and then instead of buying through that, they come in and search and get our sponsored product ads or let's say sponsored video ads, and then makes the decision. Now, previously, I think we were only able to connect the last click because Amazon was only attributing the last click. And now I think we can get to know about the whole customer journey, where it began and to the end. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh,
Yeah, that's correct.
Correct.
Okay, that's good. So Jack, what like in terms of brands, how can they get access to this powerful tool, or how is it being connected with the brands?
Sure. So the first step would be setting up an AMC instance. That's a complicated word, but basically it's just asking Amazon to put all of the right data into that privacy safe environment for you, where you can actually start accessing it, right? So the data points you need to get that live are your DSP data and your sponsored ads or AMS data. You can reach out through your Amazon ads contact, either your AE or your ad tech AE, and say, hey, I'd like an AMC instance. And then Amazon provides you access to that data in a login free of cost. You can also reach out to partners like AMC Pathfinder or PackView to say, hey, can you request an instance for me? And as long as you provide us the same information, we go through the process just using our contacts to get that instance spun up. Once you've done that, you'll get access to the AMC native console. If you haven't seen it, it's a giant box in which you write SQL. SQL is a coding language. It stands for Structured Query Language. And it's like the standard way since the mid-70s that you actually get data out of a database. And AMC requires, if you aren't using a partner, to go in and say, I know how to write SQL myself and actually get the data out of the database. For a lot of brands, we found that's like the primary blocker, that your media buyer doesn't have the technical skills to go in and write the code themselves. So there are partners in the ecosystem like PackView who have tried to build no-code solutions on top of AMC using the AMC API. So folks who maybe aren't so technical but really want access to this data can get out-of-the-box reporting without having to go in and write the code themselves.
Got it. Okay, so Brent, do you want to add something on it?
Yeah, I'll just say, Jack, you're killing it on the technical front, man. That was a really good explanation. I think the important thing to take away from there is that, yeah, this requires, if you're doing it in, like, let's call it the most basic form, where you're requesting information through Marketing Cloud and getting that dashboard. And yeah, it looks like an Amazon dashboard. It's very basic. And you're right, it gives you a nice big white box there. You can put queries in. Amazon has worked pretty hard. I'll give them credit for this, expanding the library of queries that's available. I think last time I checked, there was like maybe low 30 number of queries that are kind of in there as examples. And so they're giving you like, think of queries almost like recipes. It's like, all right, you want to make cupcakes? Here's the recipe. You want to make muffins? Here's the recipe. You want to query how many customers have repeat purchases and what their multi-touch attribution looks like? Here's the query. And then the data you get back from that is up to you to like accurately, I would say, process, massage, combine to figure out what the actual stats are. Or like Jack said, you can work with any number of software tools that are out there that are cropping up around this whole ecosystem. So I guess the option, if you want to talk about getting access, is, do it yourself and have a way to do it that's a bit more manual. You're going to have someone who has SQL experience and knowledge and, ability on your team, or at least hired part-time, or work with a tool that makes it like a actual interface. We do a little bit of both at Pathfinder, actually. We have someone on the team who does SQL, and we've messed around with it. We haven't done that as much as we have used the tool. And that tool has a graphical user interface, and we have a time range we can set and change on it, and we can bring up different graphs and charts and stuff like that. That tends to be a bit easier for our use case here for the several clients we use it for. But that's basically how Access works right now. So I wouldn't say it's open to the general public super easily. There is a technical hurdle, but it's not one that's impossible to overcome.
Yeah. The other sort of technical piece that's going to change is right now you have to be running DSP for the last, I think, 28 days to be able to request an instance. For most brands, like if you're just launching DSP for the first time, you're like, well, I want to measure it, but I can't do that until it's already live. So that
chicken and egg situation.
Yeah, chicken and egg situation, which causes some problems. But in the back half of this year, Amazon will also be allowing folks to spin up instances that are just sponsored ads only. No requirement for DSP, which is going to open up a much wider range of advertisers who will have access to AMC, and therefore like really increase demand from people like me and Brent to help folks say, hey, I'm a mid-sized Amazon seller. I want access to AMC, but I've never run DSP before. How do I write new queries or gather new insights for just using my sponsored ads data? Which will be a really different play from what folks have already been using it for, which is more like, how do I understand the efficacy of my DSP ad is like the most common use case folks are using it for right now.
Yeah, that's how we started for sure. And Jack, that's a super good point, because I know our service provider that we work with, we had some downtime recently and we were like, hey, what's the deal? Like, why is the dashboard not updated for the last week or so? And they're like, oh, it's because we're making massive upgrades to the back end, because now we're getting additional sponsored display information. I think that just recently was like filtered in. So Amazon had set a estimation of like, Q1 of 2023 for some of this sponsored display, because sponsored display is very API first, right? So everything in sponsored display is always filing in to new data sources through the API. And, when we started, it was DSP and sponsored products. So you said sponsored ads, which is, sponsored products, sponsored display, sponsored brands. I have no idea when sponsored brands is going to come in. That's always the last one.
It's already live.
It's live now? Okay.
Yeah.
See, man, go to Jack for all your technical questions. He knows the dates. But yeah, I think, they were doing an update for sponsored display to make sure all that data was integrated. And that to me is very exciting, because that means that we're going to get a true picture of what's happening. We're getting all the on Amazon advertising types in addition to DSP, which you can classify, I think, generally speaking, as an off Amazon advertising type. Although, of course, it does have exposure on Amazon too.
Right.
So then we get the real full picture. And then that's when we're able to build what I would call multi-touch attribution, right? And this is the thing you mentioned earlier, Sammy. Like if someone is touching ads 3 different times over the course of 2 weeks, well, who gets credit? Well, it's a tough question, but you might be able to start to build models thanks to AMC that allow you to, let's say, apportion the credit between different touch points. This is not an exact science. I think that's one thing that's kind of important to remember. Attribution, even on Amazon, even in the closed ecosystem that it is, let's exclude AMC for a second, is still not an exact science. People will click something, they'll put it in their cart, they won't buy for 3 weeks. I do that sometimes on my own Amazon account, I know. I forget to check out. So, that attribution is lost because too much time has elapsed for some of the ad types for that to be counted. So it's never 100%, but man, it's sure a lot better with AMC if we can get it to work how we dream it will.
Yeah, AMC has a lot of pieces out of the box that I think make custom attribution modeling a lot easier. The first is the lookback window. On AMC, you can expand it to 28 days, which it solves for Brent's scenario if he adds it to his cart and waits 3 weeks. The other pieces is that AMC has some attribution modeling out of the box. They have, so traditionally you're doing last touch attribution. But last touch attribution is last click attribution generally. You can rejigger AMC to be last impression attribution if you need to. You could also make it be first touch attribution. So if I'm running that OTT ad, if that's the first stop on the customer journey, that gets all the credit. You could also come up with, AMC has out of the box in that instructional query library Brent mentioned, a query that's even linear attribution. So if there are 10 touch points, each touch point gets 1/10 of the sale. Frankly, I don't think any of these are perfect. And I think like each brand needs to sort of decide on their own, like of those available options or building your own model, what the right response is to get a really good attribution model that everyone's happy with. It's worth just like conceding that nothing's going to be perfect and finding one that's good enough to help you get through. So like PackView's built our own machine learning model where we come up with our own custom attribution weighting. And like, I think it's pretty good, but it might not pass the sniff test for every brand because they need to think about it in whatever way makes sense for them and their stakeholders.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
But it's kind of like PPC, isn't it? It's like there's no right way to do a lot of things on PPC. There's great areas and there's a lot of wiggle room.
Exactly.
Yeah, for us, what we think is previously for us, it was very hard to convince the clients to go into DSP because of the less conversion rate that they see with DSP and the less ROAS. But I think it is now going to be much easier because ultimately they can see the whole journey, and now DSP will not be blamed for less conversion rates, right? But we can see it. So obviously DSP came up with the high budget for the sellers, right? But when we look at AMC, in order to implement the whole funnel, what type of budget of a client you look at, let's assume on a monthly basis, that this is a perfect budget we can test out starting from DSP, the whole funnel, from the starting point to the middle to the end. Brent, why don't you take it?
Yeah, I mean, my answer will be for US-based accounts, in English-speaking countries, because that's different. I mean, we work with a lot of European accounts too that are in Germany, UK to some extent, which is of course English as well. France, where I don't believe we have any DSP active, but those budgets would probably be lower. But in the US, I would say maybe $15,000 to $20,000 a month for DSP alone, and that allows you to split out your advertising efforts through different parts of the funnel. I think video is one thing that we have been really happy to see let's say more complete stats with AMC, because we run video for some clients and they have good video assets. We put it out there and then we're like, well, what's the actual impact? Because if you look at the line items and the orders themselves for video, you're like, the ROAS doesn't look very good. And of course, ROAS is not our primary concern in those circumstances, but clients are very attentive to ROAS and ACoS as always. And we need to be able to demonstrate to them like, hey, this video did something further downstream of where you initially was engaged with someone. So we can say, oh, this person saw a video first, and then they clicked on an ad in the Amazon ecosystem later, and then they made a purchase. Like, okay, that video is getting some credit for that. Whereas before, that video wasn't getting credit for that. So that's a maybe more detail than you wanted to know about budget, but that's just one example where it's been like, okay, this video budget is being allocated wisely then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the information we have from Amazon as a partner, we help folks get their own DSP instances or DSP entities set up. And the guidance we've gotten from Amazon is like 20 grand or so seems to be the point, like the sweet spot for a minimum budget. One of Amazon's primary concerns is they don't want folks trying out Amazon DSP ads, seeing that the ROAS is terrible, and then deciding that they're never going to buy it ever again. So AMC helps with that. But also those folks that are trying to do a $500 DSP test, they're not getting enough impression volume to really move the needle, right? So my suggestion is I would agree with Brent that the 20 grand threshold seems to be the right number. That one, you'll get Amazon to actually approve you to be a DSP advertiser, and two, you'll actually spend enough money to make a measurable impact.
Right. And then spending enough money over a consistent amount of time too. Because, $20K 1 month. All right. Well, that's nice. But $20K 3, 4, 5 months in a row. And like you mentioned, Jack, it's 28 days before you can pull the data out of there with AMC. I actually had totally forgotten that. Or maybe I never even knew it. But I think that's because they want to give some distance to it. Right. So if you look at it in week 2, you're like, it's not working. It's like, well,
your attribution window is really long, right?
Give it a minute.
Give it a second. Yeah.
So, in Amazon space, what is happening is what we see is Seismic, which is a platform Amazon have been owned years, but no one in this space is kind of talking about that. And I think AMC is also connecting that data point as well, right? So why not we talk a little bit about Seismic, what it is, and is Amazon sellers are also using it right now? Jack, do you want to take it?
Yeah, I can take that one. So I think it's important to zoom out and think about what Amazon's strategy is as an ad platform. I don't know this. This is my opinion. So two things. One, like Amazon's trying to increase their share of dollars in the total media ecosystem, right? And they look across the aisle and they see two really big players that have the majority of other dollars. And those are Facebook and Google, right? And when you're trying to build a brand, maybe a D2C brand, those are the places you might start with your media budgets, right? And Amazon's looking at those platforms and saying to themselves, I can build a brand via Amazon media just as well, if not better, than Facebook or Google. And AMC is one of the ways that they can increase the measurement capabilities of their brand building efforts on Amazon. Seismic's the opposite side of the coin. Seismic is saying, given that you're already spending money on Google and Facebook, how do I use Seismic, which is that third-party ad server, among other things, to track the impact of non-Amazon media, Facebook, Google, Trade Desk, whatever have you, on your Amazon sales. So doing the flip of, if you're going to spend money on Facebook, I'd really like you to direct that Facebook traffic towards Amazon.
Got it. Okay. So what kind of, like in sponsored products, sponsored brands, spatially, we get the option where we can see NTB percentage, like new to brand sales, new to brand percentage, everything, new to brand data point is there. But when you talk about AMC, what kind of data points we're looking at? What kind of things are available out there?
Brent, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think, well, new to brand is also one of the things that we definitely have access to with AMC. That's one of my favorites, probably, because I try to encourage my team and try to push with customers or clients of ours a narrative about NTB. Like, is this something we should focus on besides just ROAS? Like, where's the growth coming from? Where's the incrementality, as the term is usually stated. Another thing that I really like to see inside of AMC is LTV. So like lifetime value. Like, what is a lifetime value of a customer? We have the ability to calculate this much more easily with AMC now. And how does someone's lifetime value differ from paid channels, from organic channels? If we're getting more customers who are repeat through organic or paid, and if so, what campaigns, what products, how can we increase that repeat? How can we continue to raise the LTV? This is one of these like North Stars of just e-commerce in general. Like, it might be a newer idea for some brands on Amazon, but now with AMC, we can actually calculate more of that. Those are the two that come to mind right away for me. I don't know, Jack, what else you got? I'll try to think of another.
Yeah, so new to brand on AMC, you can get new to brand by all ad types, which I think is very powerful. Most folks like don't have sponsored products new to brand, like as a thing that they think about. There are also some really interesting things you can think about, to Brent's point about LTV and new to brand, using a paid data set from AMC called Shopping Insights. When you think about AMC, it's primarily your media data. And for most folks, like the majority of their sales happen from the other half on the organic side.